before you eat at Texas Roadhouse. Again, watch this. So, before you head to Texas Roadhouse for another meal, there are a few things you really need to know. Is it worth your money? Is the food as fresh as they claim? Well, what employees see behind the scenes might just change the way you think about your next steak dinner. Every Texas Roadhouse location has something most restaurants don't. An in-house butcher, yep, every single day they hand cut every steak right there. While other chain restaurants rely on prepackaged vacuum-sealed meat, Texas Roadhouse invests over $1 billion a year just on fresh, high-quality beef. That's enough to buy thousands of luxury cars. And they don't serve just any steak. Every cut, whether it's a marbled ribeye, a lean filet, prime rib, or a New York strip, is USDA choice, meaning it's in the top 35% of all beef in terms of quality. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Once those steaks are cut, they're stored at exactly 34 degrees Fahrenheit at a temperature so precise, it's like their own personal VIP lounge. Any colder and ice crystals start forming, any warmer, and the quality drops. And get this, the meat never touches a freezer. No wonder it tastes so fresh when it hits the grill. In an industry where so many restaurants have embraced frozen food and microwaves, Texas Roadhouse refuses to play along. While some chains are basically just reheating meals, Texas Roadhouse makes everything from scratch. Seriously, everything. The croutons on your salad, cut fresh from their own bread. The dressing, mixed that morning. Mashed potatoes, made from real potatoes. Not some mystery powder from a cafeteria nightmare. This old school approach is rare because, well, it's hard. Most chains cut corners by prepping food in a central factory, then shipping it out. But at Texas Roadhouse, every kitchen has a bigger team working harder to make sure every bite is fresh. Want proof? Their seasoned rice takes 3 hours to prepare. Baked potatoes, cooked twice to get that perfect fluffy texture. Even their chili, it simmers for hours before it's served. These aren't shortcuts. They're the scenic route to better food. The rolls you can't stop eating, there's a reason for that. And let's talk about those legendary rolls. You know, the warm, soft, slightly sweet rolls that show up at your table like little bites of heaven. Those are baked fresh every 5 minutes throughout the day. That's why they always taste fresh, because they are. Each Texas Roadhouse location goes through about 18,000 rolls per week. That's nearly 1 million rolls per year. Per restaurant, even the bacon bits for loaded baked potatoes are made in-house instead of coming from a plastic bag. These might seem like small details, but they add up to something bigger. A restaurant that puts quality over convenience. So why go through all this effort? Because when food is made fresh, it tastes fresh. Unlike prepackaged meals that rely on preservatives and artificial flavors, Texas Roadhouse keeps it real. The result? A meal that stands out in a world full of fast, frozen, and flavorless food. And let's be honest, great meals aren't just about what's on your plate. But we'll get to that part in a second. Before we dive back into Texas Roadhouse, there's something important we want to share. The only product we'll ever promote on this channel is a book by Claude Davis, a veteran prepper, about 126 superfoods and preservation methods from crisis times like the Great Depression and wartime. These aren't just any survival tips. They're nearly impossible to find elsewhere, and we believe this knowledge is too valuable to let disappear. We're the last generation that can pass these techniques down to our kids and grandkids. Losing them would be a real shame. So, if you want to learn how to preserve highly nutritious foods that could help in any crisis, check out the book in the description below. Forget quiet, candlelit dining. Texas Roadhouse thrives on noise. The moment you step inside, you're hit with the sounds of country music, energetic servers, and lively conversations. This is not the place for a whispered romantic proposal, but there's actually science behind the madness. Studies show that moderate background noise can make food taste better and create a more comfortable, relaxed environment. Texas Roadhouse has mastered this balance, loud enough to feel fun, but not so deafening that you can't hear your dinner date. And if you thought the noise was just background, think again. The real show starts when the servers break into line dancing right between the tables. Yep, they don't just serve food, they twist, turn, and two-step across the restaurant. It's such a big part of the experience that when some locations face local restrictions, they actually fought for permits to keep the tradition alive. If you're celebrating a birthday here, get ready for some serious attention. Instead of a simple candle on a cake, the birthday guest is invited to sit on a saddle-covered sawhorse in the middle of the restaurant while the servers gather around and lead a loud, rowdy celebration. For introverts, maybe a nightmare. But for everyone else, it's a hilariously unforgettable experience. Most people can't help but grin through the good-natured fun. Ever notice that satisfying crunch when you step inside Texas Roadhouse? That's because at many locations, the floors are covered in peanut shells. This tradition started as a practical fix. The shells helped absorb spills and provided extra grip on potentially slippery floors. But over time, it became a signature part of the Texas Roadhouse experience. Beyond just being fun, all this rowdiness serves a purpose. It makes families with young kids feel welcome. No more stressing about kids being too loud or dropping a fork. A little excited squeal here, a giggle there. It all blends right into the Texas Roadhouse atmosphere, no judgment zone activated. And speaking of things Texas Roadhouse does differently, who doesn't love free food? Before you even order, you're greeted with not one, but two complimentary treats. First, the legendary peanuts. Buckets of them right on the table ready to crack open with a satisfying snap. And these aren't just any peanuts. The average Texas Roadhouse location goes through over 5,000 pounds of peanuts per month. That's 60,000 pounds per year per restaurant. For context, that's the weight of 5 full-grown elephants. And that's just the beginning. Believe it or not, the peanut shells on the floor aren't just for show. Texas Roadhouse actually encourages guests to toss their empty shells right underfoot, creating that signature crunch with every step. It's a simple tradition, but one that's become so iconic that regulars would probably feel something was off without that first satisfying crack of a peanut shell. But let's be real, the true stars of the pre-meal experience aren't the peanuts. Forget those sad room temperature bread baskets that some restaurants toss at you like an afterthought. At Texas Roadhouse, the rolls come fresh out of the oven every 5 minutes. That's right. There's no chance you're getting a stale one because each location bakes around 7,000 rolls a day. That's nearly 2.5 million per restaurant every year. To put that into perspective, if you lined up all the rolls baked at a single Texas Roadhouse location in 1 year, they would stretch from New York to Miami. That's over 1,000 miles of bread. And let's talk about the real reason these rolls have such a cult following: the cinnamon honey butter. That sweet, creamy spread melts instantly on the warm bread, creating a combination that honestly belongs in the dessert category. The recipe is a closely guarded secret, and while plenty of people have tried to recreate it at home, most don't come close. Let's just say, people take these rolls seriously. Social media is full of stories. Expectant mothers craving them at odd hours, college students driving for hours just to get their fix, and entire families making road trips just for a to-go order of rolls. One customer even wrote a poem about them. And Texas Roadhouse, they framed it and hung it up in their local restaurant. And unlike other places that charge you for every extra breadstick, looking at you, Olive Garden, Texas Roadhouse proudly sticks to its free roll philosophy. In a world where restaurant menus change constantly, Texas Roadhouse does something almost unheard of. They barely change a thing. Seriously, compare a Texas Roadhouse menu from 15 years ago to today, and you'll notice something weird. It's almost identical. That's not laziness. It's strategy. Their hand-cut steaks, fall-off-the-bone ribs, and made-from-scratch sides have stayed exactly the same since the company started in 1993. It's like they discovered the perfect steak recipe and said, nope, we're done here. Meeting adjourned until the year 3000, while other restaurants scrambled to add the latest gimmicky menu item. Remember the Cronut Burger? Texas Roadhouse has introduced fewer than 5 new permanent menu items in the past decade. One of the rare additions, the Steakhouse Filet Salad, had to pass ridiculously high standards before earning a spot. For customers, this kind of stability is actually comforting. People keep coming back because they know exactly what they're getting every single time. It's like visiting an old friend who never changes, but in the best way possible. And for the kitchen, this consistency means chefs don't have to constantly learn new, trendy recipes. Instead, they perfect what they already do, and making sure every meal is just as good as the last. While other chains chase the next big thing, and in an industry full of short-lived fads, that's pretty revolutionary. Ever notice how your ribeye at Texas Roadhouse tastes exactly the same, whether you're in Phoenix or Philadelphia? That's not a happy accident. It's part of their obsession with consistency. While other restaurant chains are busy inventing bizarre menu items, looking at you, burger stuffed donuts, Texas Roadhouse sticks to what they do best: steaks, ribs, and scratch-made sides, all prepared perfectly every single time. This isn't just about tradition. Keeping the menu simple allows their kitchens to focus on quality instead of juggling 50 different items. Instead of spreading themselves too thin, they've perfected about 20 core dishes, ensuring every meal hits the high standards customers expect. And that consistency? It's a game changer for families. If you've ever taken kids to a restaurant, you know the struggle: spilled drinks, dropped food, and the occasional meltdown that makes you wish you'd just ordered takeout instead. At Texas Roadhouse, that stress melts away the moment you step inside. Between the peanut shell-covered floor, where nobody will notice a few extra crumbs, and the already lively atmosphere, parents can finally relax. A 2022 survey found that 78% of parents feel anxious when dining out with kids. Texas Roadhouse directly solves that problem by embracing the controlled chaos of family dining. Here's how they make it work. Spacious booths, plenty of room for high chairs and booster seats. Tables aren't crammed together, so there's no awkward "sorry my kid touched your fries" moment. Dedicated family sections, keeping things fun for kids while letting adults enjoy their meal. And speaking of adults, this isn't some over-the-top kid-centric chain where parents just endure the experience. Texas Roadhouse pulls off an impressive balancing act. Parents can enjoy perfectly cooked steaks and cocktails, kids get fun activities, a dedicated menu, and no pressure to behave like tiny adults. And that peanut shell-covered floor? It turns out it's a genius move beyond just being fun. Industry analysts found that it actually reduces complaints about cleanliness by nearly 40% compared to similar casual dining spots. When the floor is expected to be messy, people worry less about minor spills and more about enjoying their meal. Let's be real. A great steak dinner deserves an equally great drink. Texas Roadhouse takes their beverage game seriously, offering a lineup of drinks that perfectly complement their hearty meals. And if you've ever walked into a Texas Roadhouse, you've definitely seen their signature margaritas being mixed behind the bar. These aren't just any margaritas, they come in a variety of flavors from classic lime to strawberry and raspberry, and have developed a cult following of their own. Texas Roadhouse isn't just about steaks and ribs. Their drink menu is an experience all on its own. They serve over 5 million margaritas every year, and it's easy to see why. These aren't your average pre-mixed, watered-down cocktails. Whether you go for a classic lime margarita or something a little more adventurous, like the Hurricane Margarita, which, by the way, packs nearly 3 ounces of alcohol, so pace yourself, you're in for a treat. But margaritas are just the beginning. Jamaican Cowboy, a tropical blend of rum, fruit juices, and a hint of cinnamon, creating a surprisingly rich depth of flavor. Armadillo Punch. Despite the quirky name, this vodka-based cocktail is a smooth, fruit-forward drink that pairs beautifully with a hearty steak. And when it comes to beer, Texas Roadhouse doesn't play around. They maintain their draft system at a crisp 36 degrees Fahrenheit, the perfect temperature for keeping flavors fresh and every sip ice cold. Even their beer mugs are chilled to keep your drink at peak refreshment from start to finish. For wine lovers, their house red blend is carefully selected to complement their steaks, delivering rich notes of dark fruit and spice without the snobbery that sometimes comes with wine culture. And if you're skipping alcohol, no worries. Their flavored lemonades, made in-house with real fruit puree, are so good, they feel like a real drink, not just an afterthought. Ever been to a restaurant where you order a $30 steak and get a tiny portion surrounded by unnecessary plate decorations? That's not how Texas Roadhouse operates. They're all about serving big meals at fair prices, making it possible for families to enjoy a great dinner without breaking the bank. Family meals typically range from $75 to $85, making Texas Roadhouse an affordable choice for more than just special occasions. Early bird specials, 4 to 6 p.m., offer discounts on entrees. Lunch menus feature smaller versions of their most popular dishes at reduced prices. Kids' meals include 2 sides and a drink for around $7, beating out similar chains by a mile. And it's not just about keeping prices low, it's about making sure guests get real value for their money. Unlike many restaurants, Texas Roadhouse keeps their profit margins lower than competitors by about 15%, operating on a feed them well and they'll come back philosophy instead of nickel and diming customers. Texas Roadhouse doesn't just serve the community, they actively support it. Each location donates around $25,000 annually to local causes, with management empowered to pick initiatives that actually matter to their neighborhoods. And in times of crisis, they step up in a big way, preparing thousands of free meals for residents and first responders. Their commitment to military appreciation is just as strong, having provided over 1.5 million free meals to veterans and active service members over the years. At Texas Roadhouse, generosity isn't a marketing tactic, it's part of their DNA. And that's just one more reason customers keep coming back, meal